When you were a kid, did you ever make an art project out of macaroni? Sometimes the impulse to create is so strong that we just have to use what's on hand. And in the next half hour, I want to introduce you to 4 such resourceful and frankly unusual artists. A man who uses paper and glue to make remarkably realistic miniatures. An artist who spends hours on temporary sand art. A suburban woman who uses glass like you've never seen it. And a Chicago man who does use paint, but in a very unusual way. Stick around. That's right now on Jay's Chicago. Hi, I'm Jay Shefsky. First, meet a man with a big talent for making very small things.
What I'm doing is making my own modeling clay out of just using glue and tissue.
Meet Rico Baskin. Rico is very good at making tiny little things. This one's going to be a little cupcake. But why so tiny? That's a mystery even to Rico.
I really couldn't answer that. I really don't know. Well, this little TV is the very first model that I've ever made.
It started about 20 years ago when Rico, as most people call him, was a teenager in the Englewood neighborhood.
I was 16 years old. I broke my foot, couldn't go anywhere for that summer. Picked up some paper and started cutting it, and it just happened.
Rico made what he saw around him. He's figured out how to make paper look like a lot of things, even paper.
Because it's made with the real tissue, the real core, and it's printed on the actual label.
He calls them little things.
That's what everybody will say, just look at those little things, look at those little things instead of little things. And so I just say, hey, it's stuck.
At first, it was just a way to pass the time. But Rico had 2 assets that allowed these tiny models to grow into something big. Real talent and a very proud and determined mother.
And I was asking him, Rico, why are you working so hard on this stuff that nobody's gonna see but just you? I said, if you keep on doing this, I said, I promise you, I'm gonna promote you and have you on somebody's TV or in somebody's newspaper.
And here we are.
And I did it.
Right. I know you've been very persistent, actually.
Yes, I have.
When he was 18, Rico was featured in the Chicago Defender. That helped him get a job at a company that made models for business.
I worked on a model for Planet Hollywood. It was the Planet Hollywood downtown Chicago, and it just took off from there.
That got him to the real Hollywood, where he worked at Disney with the team that made models for the movie Armageddon. Back at a model company in Chicago, Rico says he had a setback that derailed his professional model-making career. A medical condition caused by the solvents and glues used in professional model shops.
I got this crazy skin condition, and doctors told me that I couldn't do that type of work anymore because it was really affecting my skin.
So he went back to good old paper and Elmer's glue. Rico's never sold his creations. He makes his living as a graphic designer. And now his real passion is for sharing what he's learned.
Good morning, class. My name is Laverne Baskin. I'm the mother of Rico.
Rico Baskin and his mom travel around the country leading workshops for adults and children. Today, they're at a public school in Park Forest.
And when you cut this excess material off, you end up with your first 3D shape.
Rico is teaching the 4th graders, and me, to make one of the first things he figured out himself, a simple miniature box that can be turned into many kinds of models.
Now, I know you guys are looking at this like, it's just a box. What is that gonna do, right?
The box is built with poster board and glue, a building block, if you will, for creativity and confidence.
They think that just by looking at it, that it's very, very difficult. And then when they see how simple it is, just because they learned a simple technique, then they just go, oh, I could do this myself.
It's not about learning to make miniatures, they say. It's about using what's around you in creative ways to build your own life. Art teacher Deanna Rollins has made Rico a regular visitor. Why do you keep having him back? What's good about what he does?
Because he's awesome. He connects with everybody, from kindergartners all the way up to 8th graders, high school and beyond.
It's starting to come through, and that first sleeve is right there.
Later, he teaches the 7th graders to make clothing from paper towels.
Here we go, we're gonna make pockets.
I have students that will come back and teach their little brothers and sisters or cousins, and it's really important to them.
Rico Baskin says it's not that he loves tiny cupcakes or toilet paper rolls. What's kept him at it all these years is the challenge of figuring out how to make new miniatures.
The models to me are just examples of what paper can do.
And he says that's what he really wants to teach the kids. Ingenuity and resourcefulness that will help them wherever life leads. And if they're really lucky, maybe some of the delight that Rico Baskin finds in problem solving and creativity will rub off on them too. Is it going to get a cherry on top?
I could do that.
In Chicago, we are very familiar with sand. We've got sandy beaches, and the Indiana Dunes are right nearby. But in this next story, meet a man who uses sand in a way you have never seen before. "25 pounds of sand, 35 colors, a busy downtown lobby, and one man with an empty expanse of floor."
I start in the center and then generally make this circle in the center and spoke it out. From there, it's just creating shapes.
Joe Mangrum was commissioned by a Chicago real estate firm to create his sand art in 2 of their downtown buildings. Joe studied painting at the School of the Art Institute. After he graduated in 1991, he was a transient young painter, and so instead of lugging around a growing collection of canvases, he started to make temporary art.
I started using flowers and seeds and berries wherever I found and make arrangements and photograph them.
In 2006, he was living in New York City and working in construction when he fell in love with sand.
It flows right through your hand, and I just take it here and pour it like right through the cup of my hand, or like lifeline, love line, and adjust it with my hands like this.
Joe found a receptive audience for his new medium, outdoors.
Out in public spaces of New York. Union Square Park, Washington Square.
And every day, his tip bucket was full.
I started making these paintings and instantly was making more than I was in the construction work that I was doing in New York.
Now, Joe Mangrum does about 150 sand paintings a year. Some indoors, most outdoors. He's done commissioned work from Beijing to Mexico to Denmark to Sesame Street.
Wow, I never even heard of a sand painter.
Each sand painting is unique and improvised.
I really like to just blank my mind while I'm working and let the instinctual things take over. And I'm not trying to be mathematically symmetrical, but it's like what I refer to as like an organic symmetry, where it's as though it's a being that's growing, where it's in different stages of development, whether the flower is getting more sunlight on this side and opening on this side more.
While most of Joe's sand paintings are these abstract designs, he does create the occasional sand portrait. Most of Joe Mangrum's sand paintings have a very short lifespan. By the end of the day, the outdoor ones have blown away or he sweeps them up. But the impermanence, he says, is part of the art. This one will be surrounded by stanchions and will stick around for 3 months. That is, unless it is explored by a roaming child or even vandalized. But Joe's not worried. After all, life is temporary. The next artist I want you to meet started out making leaded stained glass windows as a hobby. But as you're about to see, she has the kind of energy and personality that couldn't be contained by strips of lead. From the outside, the house seems like a typical suburban home. It's a spacious ranch on a hilly 4-acre property in Addison, Illinois. But from out here, it's impossible to predict what awaits you inside. Room by room, wall by wall, Norma Gatto has transformed this home into a work of art.
Oh, the time to be happy is now.
Norma Gatto is herself kind of a work of art. She greeted us with a song.
Happy is to make others happy, and you'll have a little heaven down here.
At 87, Norma is effusive, loving, spirited, and spiritual. Her 92-year-old husband, Dominic, is quieter and seems delighted by the unusual woman he married 70 years ago.
Let's go in there.
We came to Norma's home because we'd heard about her walls. But first, she wanted to show us the floors.
But here's my beautiful carpet that I painted.
That's right. Norma has painted all the carpet in their home.
When we moved in here, there was a gold carpet, and gold was out.
Norma says she couldn't bear the thought of wasting good carpeting.
And then I just sat there and meditated, and the Lord, in 2 seconds, gave me everything I had to do.
What she had to do was keep adding paint till the carpet fibers were saturated. It took 100 gallons.
The rug sucked it all in. So I got more paint and I painted it again.
The design on the carpet has changed many times over the years. Once the carpet was saturated, it was a canvas that Norma could repaint whenever the spirit moved her. What kind of reaction did you get when you first did this?
My family thought I was crazy. They said, "Dad, what is Ma doing?" He said, "She's painting the rug." They think I'm a hippie. Really. Hi, Vince. That's my younger son. I love you, sweetheart.
I was never embarrassed, I just didn't understand it.
Norma's son Vince was a teenager when she began decorating their home.
She was always kind of her own person. She instilled that in us. When she did her house, it was what she loved, and it didn't really matter what anybody else thought, including my dad.
Norma Gatto's unique creative vision is on display everywhere you look. From the painted couches, to the wall of mirrors, flowers, and angels, to the furniture decorated with cutouts from napkins. But if you ask me, Norma's best work is made of glass.
This is my masterpiece.
I can say with confidence that you have never seen anything like this. Every inch of the Gatto's foyer is covered with glass.
That's where I started, way in the corner here. And I went this way. I did many designs and then scraped them off.
Even the floor is a glass mosaic. And somehow it feels solid and smooth under our feet.
Oh, my neck.
And then there's the ceiling.
My neck was killing me forever and ever. And this is my bedroom, and that I love so much. This here,
For the bedroom, Norma bought boxes of unused mirror tiles at garage sales and broke them up with a pliers.
And I had to cut many, many squares to get this whole bedroom.
You have kind of an unusual home. When she first started doing it, what did you think?
I thought she was a little goofy.
This is my sweetheart and me 70 years ago. Look how beautiful we are. And we're still beautiful. I keep falling in love with you over and over and over and over again. Some people come in and say, well, what if someone buys your house and they don't like? I said, you know what? I'm enjoying it. The only way I'm leaving my house is feet first. If someone moves in here and wants to pull all the glass, I'll never know about it. Doesn't matter to me. This is all my stained glass. Look at the different colors. Isn't that beautiful? That's Ripple.
What do you like so much about glass?
I love it. I love the color. I love the feel. I just love being in this room.
This is a tremendous amount of work.
Oh my God, this took me forever. Everyone that you see like this, I cut out with a pliers and glass was flying all over. I had it in my shoes, just every place.
Norma says that for most of these walls, she likes the rougher, more natural edge that she can get by making the shapes with pliers.
Because every flower I cut all by hand with the pliers to give it, you know how flowers have like, you notice how smooth you won't get cut or anything. Because when you put the grout, it fills in all the imperfections and everything.
In the bathroom, the best view is inside the shower stall. Here, Norma applied the glass onto a glass block window.
What I did first, I made a tree of mirrors and I made leaves of the tree all along. You know what? The older you get, the more self-confidence you have. You don't worry about what the people are going to think about you. That takes a lot of wisdom. That's what you accumulate through the years, is the wisdom.
How did you even get the idea to do
The
this?
Lord. That's all I could say.
Norma is happy to show off her home, and she readily acknowledges all the hard work that's involved. But I noticed that she won't take credit for her artistic vision or for the know-how required to accomplish all of this.
Well, when I was painting the carpet and I was on my knees, I never drew a flower in my life. Had all these cans of paint around me. And I would just get the paintbrush, and when I was deep in thought, asking for God's angels to help me, someone actually took the paintbrush out of my hand and started painting for me. And there was such a beautiful feeling in my soul. And when I got through in the parlor and I stood up and looked at that, I couldn't believe I did it. But I know that anything you love, there's always an angel to guide you and perfect it for you.
I got interested in this next artist because of his unusual talent. But when we arrived at his home to film him, what we found was really a remarkable love story.
The story I thought I was going to tell was about a painter named Antonio Davis. And that would have been interesting enough because Antonio is quadriplegic and paints by holding the brush in his mouth. Antonio was injured 20 years ago when he was 19. He was shot in the chest during a fight.
I fell and I couldn't get up, so I knew right then that something was seriously wrong.
Antonio is paralyzed from the waist down and has limited hand and arm function. He studied graphic design and art in high school, but when an occupational therapist suggested that he try painting with his mouth, at first he thought it sounded crazy. But he says it's changed his life.
I mean, I couldn't see my life without painting right now. My wife knows it. My family knows it. You know, after a couple of days, I have to run in this little room and paint. I have to. It keeps me sane.
So that's the story that I thought I would tell. Painting brings a disabled guy back to life after a terrible injury. But then I met Antonio's wife, Juanita Butler.
Okay. Now it's your turn to find me a movie. Hurry.
Juanita is talkative, funny, and irreverent.
Desperate housewife.
You are.
Hurry, darling.
And some kind of magic happened when the two of them met at his nursing home not long after the injury.
I was actually living with her father. Me and her father was roommates.
I walked into the nursing home one day, and I seen this particular dude talking to a lady at the front desk, and it looked strange because I was like, what is this young guy doing in the nursing home?
So she grabbed the back of my chair and spun it around.
And I spun it around, and I was like, oh my God, you're so cute. What are you doing here?
And I looked up and I told her, well, I live here.
And I said, oh, you live here? Oh my God, I gotta get you out of here.
Juanita began visiting more often, but she says her attraction to him surprised her.
The ironic thing about this, when I was growing up as a little girl, I was scared of people in wheelchairs. I would literally run from them. It was like some freak show. When I met him, something happened, and I saw past his wheelchair. And there was a sadness to him, and he was like downcast. But something in me saw the great in him.
And from that day on, we has been inseparable, and that was 1997.
Juanita and Antonio were married exactly 1 year from the day they first met. But not everyone thought it was a good idea.
And it was said to me, why would you want to marry someone in a wheelchair? You're going to have to take care of him for the rest of your life. And I knew the God in me said, not so.
When I first met her, I was totally still dependent. And just seeing her and the love that she gave, the unconditional love for me being in this situation, she never gave across that I was less than a man because I was in a wheelchair, which inspired me to get independent.
But just a few months before they got married, it became clear that the caretaking would have to go both ways. Juanita was diagnosed with lupus in 1997, and then other muscle and lung diseases followed. All of it affects her strength and her voice, though apparently not her spirit.
Tables have turned. Now he works, he's taking care of me. This painting has brought him to the point where he could afford us this condo. I don't even have to dress him anymore. I used to have to pick him up, put him in the car. His tenacity, his ambition was so strong that he said, you won't have to do this for me. I'm going to help you. And he did it. He's standing. And a lot of people have been through 15 men in the 16 years that I've been with one man, and he has shown out completely through this art.
Antonio Davis's painting has become a source of income, thanks in large part to the Mouth and Foot Painters Association. The MFPA is run by quadriplegic artists who raise money through reproductions of the art and then pay salaries to the artists whose work they have deemed to be high enough quality. Antonio also sells some of his paintings directly to individuals and at fundraising exhibitions at the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. Each painting takes several months to complete. Juanita helps him when necessary and is not shy about offering feedback.
She's my worst critic. She'll come in and say, what is that? And I'll think it's my best work.
Do you just throw her out of the room, or does that push you to make it better?
It pushed me to make it better. It has. Because when I first started, everything she said was, it's cartoony. It looks like a cartoon. So I had to really get my A game, because I wanted to come across as vibrant and as real as possible.
sometimes, people will see us. We'll go to church and people will say, oh, God's gonna bless you. You're gonna get out of the chair. And do you know, sometimes I got the nerve to get nervous. Like my husband's gonna stand and walk. He's gonna find something I'm hiding from him, like a clothing bill or something. But that would be so amazing if he started walking. I just gotta find new hiding places.
If you'd like to watch any Jay's Chicago stories again or share them with your friends, go to our website, wttw.com/Jay's Chicago. While you're there, you can also find out more about many of our subjects. And while you're there, tell us what you thought of the show and send us your own story ideas. I'm Jay Shefsky. Thanks for watching.